Okay, so what to do? We'll start learning all the VPC related stuffs today. So we'll see how we can create our own infrastructure, own virtual private cloud, okay, and own network so that we can manage all the things, whatever we are going to use in the AWS, like all those resources, all the services, whatever we are going to create or going to use, that will be under our control, right? We are not going to use the default VPC, which is being provided by Amazon. So let's see, before doing the VPC setup, before creating our infrastructure, before creating the networking, IP addresses, subnets, and all these things, we should understand what exactly the VPC is theoretically to know the concept. And remember one thing, and in this class, we are not going to cover the networking part. Actually, the networking part is a vast one, okay? This is a huge one. So you have to at least go through some networking concept if you are not aware about that, like subnet. I'll just guide you. I'll just give you some overviews on that, but I cannot go depth, okay? Because networking itself a huge course. We cannot go through that entire things. So I'll just go through a little bit about the networking stuffs, and I would suggest you to go through and just have a look on those concepts and all. Okay, so let me share my screen, and we'll just see what exactly the VPC is and how we can achieve that. Okay, so what is VPC? We can see VPC is called as virtual private cloud. Okay, we can say Amazon VPC or Amazon virtual private cloud, like our virtual private network, right? Virtual private network VPN. Similarly, in the cloud, we provide the virtual private cloud, allow you to provision a logically isolated section of the Amazon Web Services cloud, where we can launch AWS resources in a virtual network. Okay, so what exactly this means? It provides a logically isolated section of the Amazon Web Services cloud where we can launch AWS resources in a virtual network that you define. Means based on your requirement, based on your project requirement, you have to set off your own infrastructure. Like simple example in your real time, right? Either you can buy one apartment, right? You can buy the apartment and you can directly stay there. And that apartment is being designed as per the contractor, right? As per the builder. The builder has designed the apartment and house. The infrastructure is being designed by them, and you are going to occupy the house. And another case is whenever you buy your own land and you create your own infrastructure, you create your own building, own house. Either it could be an apartment, or could be a bungalow, or could be anything, right? It will be based on your requirement, how you want to set up the infrastructure. And you have to install CCTV and all for security reasons, right? Similarly, in cloud, in our cloud also, we are going to create our own network, own infrastructure. Okay, our custom VPC. So we can have complete control over your our virtual networking environment, including selection of your own IP address range, creation of subnets, and configuration of routing table, okay, and networking gateways, internet gateway. We can control everything. Whatever we have learned so far, everything was based on the default VPC, default subnet, default route table, default internet gateway, default everything, right? Now, what else we can do? We can customize the network configurations of our own VPC. Also, we can create a public facing subnet for your web servers that has access to the internet, and place your backend systems such as databases or application servers in a private facing subnet with no internet access. And most of the companies, guys, if you don't have feasibility to the backend to see how the infrastructure has been set up, actually, all the organizations, okay, all the tier-based organizations, multi-tier organizations, they always keep their databases in a private and secure places where there will be no internet access. That means we can access through different system or public message to directly to the databases. So we'll see also in this classes, in this project, I will have a complete end-to-end project of creating everything in one place, of creating public subnet, creating private subnet, and putting it everything in for databases, putting in private, and we'll see how we can access the databases. All these things will have a complete project, okay, through UI, through GUI, as well as through Terraform also. Once we complete this, we'll cover the Terraform. In the Terraform also, how we can write the code to automate the infrastructure using that Terraform tool, okay? What it does, multiple layers of securities can be provided, that is security groups and network access control list. That is called NACL, NACL, network access control list. Okay, we'll see how we can provide, and I'll differentiate between what is the security groups and the network access control list. And remember, guys, you definitely get questions. They might ask you what is the most when you use security groups and when you go for network access control list. Okay, that we'll discuss further in this slides. So this is the entire diagram and the project we are going to do it in this class. So we'll have a public subnet. Okay, we are going to procure or going to create our own VPC, and in that VPC, in this virtual private cloud, we are going to create a public subnet, a private subnet. Okay, and we'll have the route table creation, and we'll have the NAT gateway, we'll have the internet gateway, we'll put the load balancer, we'll see how the user connecting the public subnet will have access directly to the user to the public subnet. Okay, and this public subnet will, when I was talking about here, we can create a public facing subnet for your web servers. Okay, means our UI, our web servers, web applications will be on the public facing server. That means public can access the web servers, but they cannot directly access the database. Through the public server, through that web server, the data can be fetched from the database and the user can view it. Okay, so this is what the diagram, and we are going to set up everything manually by using the web console, the UI, and also will automate by writing the Terraform code. Okay. Now, what we can do with a VPC, we can launch instances into a subnet of our own choice. Okay, the subnet, whatever you create, you can put your instance, EC2 instances. So you would have seen, right, whenever we create any EC2 instances, what we have to do, you to choose default, right? No selections will be there, and we leave the AWS to choose the subnet for us. No preference, right? It will be automatically being picked up by the AWS. Now, in this our custom VPC case, we can choose our own subnet and assign custom IP address ranges in each subnet, configure route table between subnets, okay, and create internet gateway and attach into VPC, EC2 instance security group, subnet NACL, and what we'll see, okay, let me just, I'll just write it down one more point here, and that is NAT gateway, okay? Yes, and create NAT gateway. So everything will have a section, and we'll discuss what is NAT gateway, what is NACL, what is these subnets, and all. We'll discuss everything in detail. Okay, don't worry. Now, so next is VPC peering. Okay, so today's class will be completely entirely will discuss theoretically of each and every terms and keys, and you'll just go home and today just see what exactly these terms and get more details about that, and then tomorrow classes we'll do the lab class. Okay. So, and lab class will be very important, guys. And once you do the lab classes, everything will be in your mind. And whenever the question comes, you can easily answer that question. Because hands-on gives you more experience, right? Hands-on gives you more things to remember, right? Okay. So, whatever things we have done, as I told, we used to do the default VPC because it is user-friendly. It allows us to immediately deploy our instances. So what happens whenever we use default things, we don't have to bother about anything else, right? We simply go ahead and create the EC2 instances with simple few clicks. That's all. We don't have to do anything else. But in our custom VPC, we have to select, we have to do setups, we have to do configurations of our own choice. That is little difficult to do all these setups because sometimes there will be something missing which will break the networking. So we have to be very careful whenever you are doing the infrastructure setup or configurations for your own VPC or of your own EC2 instances, putting the custom VPC. Okay. Now, before doing that, what is VPC peering? A VPC peering connection is a networking connection between two VPCs that enables you to route traffic between them using private IP addresses or private IPv4 or V6 IP addresses. Okay, instances in either VPC can communicate with each other as if they are within the same networking. What this means actually? So whenever you are connecting to a resource, to different resources, normally we need internet connections to connect, right? But in case of VPCs, if you are going to put the resources in one VPC and another VPC without having the networking connectivity, we can, by using the VPC peering, we can connect the resources between two VPCs. So what happens here? It allows you to connect one VPC with another via direct network route using private IP addresses. We don't need any public IP addresses or public internet to connect the resources. So via direct network route, we can use the resources among all the VPCs, okay, between two VPCs. So we can peer VPCs with other AWS accounts as well as with other VPC in the same account. And one central VPC can peer into 4 others accounts. So remember, guys, these are the bullet points, and you have to just remember, I have written multiple other points also. Just remember, one central VPC can peer into 4 others. And transitive peering is not possible from one VPC to another VPC via other VPC. We'll see in this diagram, next diagram we have. See, as I said, one central VPC can peer into 4 others. And transitive peering is not possible from one VPC to another VPC via other VPC. That means, if you see this diagram, here we have 4 VPCs and one central VPC, which you can see in this diagram has been peered to the respective VPCs, right, directly here. VPC A can peer to VPC B directly. VPC A can peer to D, can peer to E, can peer to C. However, the VPC A cannot connect to VPC D using VPC B. That means, if you see this other diagram, this is not possible. This one is not possible. Through VPC A, B to D is not possible. Okay, now let's understand this. VPC A can talk with all other VPCs. As I said, similarly, VPC B can talk only to VPC A. Can only talk to VPC A. VPC B cannot talk to VPC D via VPC A. That means transitive peering is not possible. So this is the diagram of transitive peering. Diagram of transitive peering. Now, however, VPC B can talk with VPC D directly via VPC peering. So B can talk with D directly, cannot go through VPC A, cannot go through VPC A. So in this diagram, it is actually not transitive, it is actually direct peering between B and D. I think I would have a transitive peering diagram. No. So if you see here, let me just draw one quickly. If we, okay. So if we see here, this transitive peering cannot be possible using VPC A. Okay. So using VPC A, this is not possible. The transitive peering is not possible. However, VPC B can directly talk with VPC D. Similarly, VPC B cannot talk to VPC D via VPC A. This means this red color one is not possible. However, VPC B can talk with VPC D directly by VPC peering. Okay. Now VPC B also can directly talk with VPC E. VPC B, C, and C can directly talk with D. But via the central VPC by A, they cannot talk each other. Okay. Now, what it says, a VPC peering connection helps you to facilitate the transfer of data. For example, if you have more than one AWS account, you can peer the VPCs across those accounts to create a file sharing network. So you can also use a VPC peering connection to allow other VPCs to access the resources you have in one of your VPCs. So we don't have to rely on any external network to connect the resources. By using direct networks, we can connect the resources between AWS other accounts and the same accounts also. Okay. The next one is, let me make it. Here are the few points which will be actually, you may get questions on these points. So VPC consists of internet gateway, route table, network access control list, subnet, and security group. So whenever you create your custom VPC, the first thing actually, it will create a custom route table. It will create a network access control list. It will create subnet. It will create security group. And remember, guys, one subnet equal to one availability zone. Just remember and try to understand this line. If you don't understand clearly, let me know. I'll just tell you again. One subnet equal to one availability zone, but one availability zone can have multiple subnets. Can have multiple subnets. What does this means? If you have one subnet, you can add that one subnet to one availability zone. But you cannot see, same subnet cannot be added to other availability zone. But one availability zone can have multiple subnets. One availability zone can have multiple subnets. However, one subnet will have only one availability. Any doubt, guys, in this line?
Sir, sir, when we created a EC2 instance, there subnet like AP South 1A, AP South 1B, AP South 1C.
Those are yeah.
Subnet.
Those are no. AP South 1, A, B, C. Those are actually the availability zone.
Okay. Subnet is
So one subnet, as I told, one subnet will be, so subnet is totally different. So see, the subnet is the address, IP addresses we're going to put it where, through which we are going to access the server, right? And that server, whenever you put EC2 instances on one subnet, then that one subnet will literally be being placed in one availability zone. Okay. See, whenever you create EC2 instances, we are selecting the availability zone, right? Which availability zone you want to put the EC2 instances, either 1A, 1B, 1C. In one of the availability zone, you are going to put it. And that availability zone can have multiple subnets, either 1, 2, 3 subnets. But if you have your own subnet created and you have attached only one subnet to the availability zone, that means your EC2 instances will be put into that particular availability zone having one subnet. We'll see in examples, right? We'll see in the lab classes how we set up the instances. And just if you go to the, let me show you. If I go to the launch instance, okay, and here let's select anything here and keep networking. So what I say here, networking, it is default networking and default no preferences, right? Default subnet in any availability shown, in any our default subnet, any. Let me edit this one, okay? And here we can choose if we have any custom VPC. I am not anyone, so I'm going to choose this default VPC and subnet here. Right here are the subnets available. See, this particular subnet is being availability zone is under 1B, and this subnet is 1A, and this subnet is 1C. So whenever you are choosing any subnet or any availability zone, right? 1A, 1B, 1C, that means you are going to choose that subnet which will be attached to this availability zone. We are not going to set off this availability zone. We are going to set off this subnet, right? So that subnet which is linked to that availability zone, our network will be, sorry, our EC2 instances will be created under that availability zone. Suppose I selected 1B, will have the CID range of this will get created automatically based on the CID range being set up for the subnet. We'll discuss about the CID range. We'll discuss about the subnet further, okay? More elaborately how exactly the subnet and the CID things works, okay? So this is what it looks like. So whenever we create our custom things, that time you will understand more, okay? So Jyoti, clear?
Yes, sir, clear.
So Ranjit,
yeah,
the subnets which we are going to create or we create, are we saying that these subnets are private?
Yes. See, it's that's the beginning I told, right? It will be under our control only. Whether you want to create a public subnet or private subnet, it's up to you. So okay, whenever we create the subnet, we'll have options to make that subnet as private. That means nobody can access it, or we can make it public facing. That we'll see whenever we create our subnet. Okay.
All right. Okay.
So, and these are the points. What do we say? This is clearly understood, right? And we'll see in detail whenever we create the subnet. And the next one is the security groups are stateful, but NACL are stateless. That we'll see an example how it is stateful and how it is stateless. And non-transitive peering is possible. That is, we already have discussed. Non-transitive peering is possible. Okay, so we have a complete document here. Let's go back. If we go to this documents on VPC peering, I would suggest you go through this. I'll just put you in the chat. Okay. Put it and bookmark it in your browser, right? And if I go here and check for this VPC peering, I already have bookmarked it with me, right? So we can see here the VPC peering things and more detailed way it's given. Okay, so if you want to go for more details on VPC peering, how it is work and what are the scenarios being you need to be follow, right? Route VPC idea block and VPC peering connections and everything. We'll have a class on VPC peering, don't worry, and we'll do we'll have a lab on VPC peering. We'll see how without networking connections with direct network, how we can connect it. Okay, so how we'll get the VPC peering, okay, creations and everything is being given here. Okay, so we'll go through this, and this documentations, guys, I always every time I suggest you to go through these documentations, because this is the because they are the developer, right? They are the creator, and they can write everything, each and every point better than any other tutor or any trainer, right? So always follow the documentation being created by the developer of the particular product, right? Okay, so we'll discuss about things in later in our one of the class to creating the VPC peering and all will in the lab classes. Okay, now, so I would suggest you to after this class today, just go through this and get more details and more ideas on that. You can see here the prerequisites we have: create with VPC in the same account and region, same account and different account with the same region and different account and the regions. So we have everything, right? We have everything here is given here in this command line, and all these things you can find it over here. Now, if I go here, see, okay, now we can see here the NAT gateway. The NAT gateway, okay, what is this NAT gateway? The NAT gateway or network address translation. NAT means network address translation. Gateway is a highly available AWS managed service that makes it easy to connect to the internet from instances within a private subnet in an Amazon private cloud or Amazon VPC. So when we need the NAT gateway, so we are talking about the private subnet, right? So private, when we create the private subnet, will not have direct internet access to the private subnet. And how our applications on the public subnet can access the database which is situated or which is placed under the private subnet. How we can do? By using the NAT gateway, by using the network address translation or NAT gateway. We'll have a demo, or we'll have a class on this NAT gateway, how we create the NAT gateway, and how we'll see we have access to our applications which is placed under public subnet. Okay, and the instances in the public subnet can send outbound traffic directly to the internet. The instances in the public subnet can send outbound traffic directly to the internet, whereas the instances in the private subnet cannot. Means the instances in the public subnet can send the outbound traffic directly to the internet because it will have the internet access, but private subnet cannot do that. So instead, the instances in the private subnet can access the internet by using the NAT gateway that I was telling, right? That resides in the public subnet. That's why this database server can connect to the internet for software updates using the NAT gateway, but the internet cannot establish connections to the database server. In this way, we can highly make secure our databases. So our data will be secure because it will be not exposed directly to the internet. So our data are being secured, right? What is this network access control list? We're talking about NACL, right? We can say SCL access control list, or we can say it NACL or network access control list. So what is this access control list or network access control list? It is a set of rules defined for controlling the network. And what is the security group, guys? The security group also a set of rules we set up to whitelist few IP addresses or ports so that we can access to the applications, right? But in case of network access control list, again, it is a set of rules defined for controlling the network traffic. That is, we control the applications, access to the applications, provide whitelist the IP addresses, whitelist the ports through which we can connect to the applications. But here we are going to set of rules which will control the network traffic and reducing the network attack. Okay, so access control lists are used to filter traffic based on the set of rules defined for the incoming or outgoing of the network. So a network access control list is an optional layer of security for your VPC that acts as a firewall for controlling traffic in and out of one or more subnet. So we are going to put extra layer of or optional layer of security for our VPC. So what is the advantage of SCL? It improves the network performance, provides security as administrator can configure the access list according to the needs and deny the unwanted packets from entering the network. So we can access the network attacks. We can restrict the networks, how it can be used by the public, by the outside, right? Outsiders. And it provides control over the traffic as it can permit or deny according to the need of the network based on our setups, our rules and regulations. Okay, we do the setup of our own infrastructure and own network. And we can create extra layer of security by using NACL. Okay, in simple term, we can say that we can, by using NACL, we can put extra layer of security to our network. Simplest way, or you can say it's a set of rules defined for controlling the network traffic and reducing the network attack. Okay, here are all these bullet points. Okay, I can just tell you to write it down. Don't keep it like I'll watch the video and I'll put it everything. Write your own languages, either in a notebook, in a WordPad or documents, or PPT, or whatever. You prepare your own, because whenever you write, right, it will be printed in your mind also, right? You'll remember all these things. So that's why always I never share the documents with you guys, because I know all these things, right? So whenever I prepare myself, I remember more. It's very simple logic, right? Whenever you do by yourself, you'll remember everything. If someone is doing and someone is writing for you, you'll never remember it. Definitely you'll forget once the class is over or after 1 day or 2 days. Okay. Always insist on all of you guys, so just write it down. Okay. Watch the video, pause it, write it down, either in a notebook. I always, because nowadays digitally we are using everything. I always prefer everything, put everything in your digital ways. I never use pen for a long years now. I've never used the pens, everything, whatever I write. I get my laptop and even I write everything in my mobile also. Okay. So write it down, save it somewhere. Whenever you need, you can easily access those things, because everything is networked. Either you can put in your things in one of your GitHub account. You can put all documents in S3 bucket, right? S3 bucket is free. 50 GB of data is free. You can put, right? That is entire lifetime free. When your account is 1 year expired, you can put all your documents in S3. I have kept all my documents in S3 and I have made it private, right? I can access all these things. I have made or put all my projects in my GitHub account, which can be public. I can a few things I have made public for the entire world to see whatever I have done, and few things which is related to my project I have created as private. That means I can only access those things. So never keep everything in your laptop, right? Guy, put it everything in the network, and whenever you need it, you can easily access through the mobile, you can easily access through the your laptop. Okay. And also it will have good advantage of keeping your data secure and backup, right? Sometimes your mobile get crashed. Sometimes if you physically keep in your mobile, if you physically keep in your laptops, your laptop may get corrupted, or sometimes you have to format it, or some things it will not be recovered. If you put it in a secure place, multiple places, you can easily get it back, right? And documents, I always fear of losing something, right? Or if you lose all over whatever you gained, right? If we, in our mind, we cannot keep everything. It's the vast knowledge, right? Everything we cannot put it. Those will be written in our mind, whatever we have done ourselves. And the rest of things will not be in our mind. So always keep a reference for future reference. Keep the documents as for the future reference. In case you don't remember, just recall those things, right? And that's why I always keep everything safe. Okay, that's the thing about the talk. Now, these are some bullet points we'll discuss. The newly created VPC automatically comes with a default network SCL, and by default, it allows all inbound and outbound traffic. Remember, this is a good point to remember. Newly created VPC automatically comes with a default network SCL, and by default, it allows all inbound and outbound traffic. We can create our custom network SCL, but by default, it denies all inbound and outbound traffic until we add the rules. Okay, so by default, what it does, it denies all inbound and outbound traffic. Remember 2 points here, guys. You have to remember, whenever you create BPC or BPC, custom BPC, your own BPC, automatically it comes with a default network access and SCL, access control list, and this will allow all inbound and outbound traffic. Default, it will allow all inbound and outbound traffic. But if you create your own custom, not the default one, if you create your custom network SCL, by default it will deny everything. So which is more secure? The custom one, right? Default one comes, it will allow all inbound and outbound traffic. But if you go with the custom SCL, what it does, you have to, by default, it will deny, and you have to put all the things, whatever you need. So remember, guys, the default network, it never allowed, and add this default network to your infrastructure, to your network traffic. Okay. So each subnet in a VPC must be associated with network SCL. If you don't explicitly associate a subnet with a network SCL, the subnet is automatically associated with the default network SCL. Here is the security risk may happen if you don't follow the appropriate association of the subnet. What it says, each subnet in a VPC must be associated with the network SCL. Whenever we create our custom subnets, right, that subnet must be associated with the network SCL. If we don't explicitly associate a subnet with the network SCL, the subnet is automatically associated with the network default network SCL, and the default network SCL is being allowed all the inbound and outbound traffic. Okay, always add the subnets to the custom SCL based on the security you want to keep it. We'll see in actions whatever we are discussing, guys, related to SCL. Okay, we'll create SCL and we'll see how the network access is getting restricted. All this we'll see. And the other one is we can block IP addresses using network SCLs, but not using security groups. This is a very good point, guys. We can block IP addresses using the network SCLs, but not using the security groups. Security groups, we cannot block the IP addresses. Okay, we cannot block IP addresses. We can just allow particular IP addresses to connect, but we cannot block particular IP addresses in security groups. Okay, if you want to block somebody's, suppose Kishore's IP address, what I can do, I can just get his IP address and put it in the my network access control list so that he cannot access to my network. This is how the companies they do. Okay. Now we can associate a network SCL with multiple subnets. However, a subnet can associate with only one NACL. This is another very good bullet point. We can associate a network SCL with multiple subnets. Multiple subnets. One network SCL can be associated with multiple subnets, but a subnet can associate with only one NACL. So if we have subnet A, B, C, and we have network access A, we can put all these subnets into this network access control list. Okay, this can be associated with multiple subnets. Suppose subnet A, subnet B, subnet C can have ACL A, ACL all this ACL A can be put in the ABC. However, a subnet can associate with only one NACL. Suppose we have two NACL A, NACL B, and we have subnet A, B, C. If you want to put subnet A with NACL A and NACL B, it cannot be possible. That is what it is saying. However, a subnet can associate with only one. We'll see in this examples, okay, in hands-on how it works. When we associated a NACL or network access control list with a subnet, the previous association will be automatically removed. NACLs contains a numbered list of rules that is evaluated in order, starting with lowest number rules. This is again a good point to remember, and it will help you to add the securities and set up the rules in orders, right? So what it says, the rules whatever we create in NACL, right? It comes and evaluated in order, starting with the lowest number rules. Okay, NACL always actually being set off using the numbers like 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So the lowest number rule starting with the lowest number rule. So suppose you have set off suppose one IP address, blocking one IP address with 400 rules. On 400 rules, you have blocked the IP addresses. But the same IP addresses is allowed on 100 number rules. What will happen? The IP addresses will not be blocked because it is already being allowed in the lower number, which is the first preference for the NACL to get it. Okay, so be careful whenever we are doing the setup, and these things we'll do in action section. Okay, we'll have multiple labs. Okay, the lab class will take 2 days of classes for the lab itself. Okay, we'll have multiple lab classes for this entire project, this project. Okay, now the NACL's contents. Okay, the network access control list are stateless. Response to allowed inbound traffic are subject to the rules for outbound traffic and vice versa. We'll see this one, how it works. Okay, the next one is the direct connect. What is this direct connect? So AWS Direct Connect is a cloud service solution that makes it easy to establish a dedicated network connection from your premises to AWS. So for your on-premises, whatever the networks you have, if you want to connect to the AWS by using this direct connect service being provided by the AWS, you can directly connect to any AWS services by using this direct connect from your on-premises services. Okay, so what it says, AWS Direct Connect is a cloud service solution that makes it easy to establish a dedicated network connection from your on-premises to the AWS. Using AWS Direct Connect, you can establish private connectivity between AWS and your own data center office, or co-location environment, which in many cases can reduce the network cost. We don't have to rely on a different network or separately a private network, which will cost us more. Okay, if you set up a different network to connect your on-premises resources to your cloud resources, it will cost you more. If you're going to use direct connect services of AWS, we can easily connect to the on-premises applications or data centers to the AWS data centers. Okay, it increases the bandwidth throughput and provide a more consistent network experience and than internet-based connections. If you want to connect from your on-premises data center to the AWS data center through internet, definitely sometimes what happens, it will increase the cost. First thing, it will increase the bandwidth throughput. And what it can do, it can also increase the, it also, we face some differences in the consistency of the network, may go down and all, up and down will be there, right? So, but in case of direct, we'll get a consistency network. Will not have any fluctuations of the network in case of direct connect. So here are the steps to set off this direct connect, and we'll see in actions. So first we have to create a virtual interface direct connect console, and this is, I'm not going to do the demo guys because it will cost the things more, and also we don't have a on-premises data center through which we can connect. But these are the points I'm going to share with you through which how you can create in your organizations if you have a chance to work on that. Okay, as we don't have anything to do, I have just written the setups here, how you can do that, how you can achieve it. Okay, we cannot do the demo on this direct connect. So what we can do first, we can create a virtual interface in the direct connect console. This will be your public virtual interface, and we can go to our VPC console and then VPN connections, create a customer gateway and all. I'll just go through this, how we can do that, but we cannot just attach this with the desired VPC and all. We have a separate document for the direct connect. Okay, if I go to this one and just go for AWS direct connect. Okay, and we have this hybrid cloud connections, right? Hybrid cloud network connections, AWS direct connect. Go with this, and we'll have this data center and how it works. Okay, use cases and all the documents, you can find it over here. Find the direct partners and get started with AWS direct. Go through this. Okay, direct connect. This chart. Okay, I just put it here, and now what we can do here, go through this direct connect and all. We'll just move forward. And the next one is we'll discuss about, and here is the diagram which I had copied from the diagram whatever I showed you in the documentations, AWS documentations. Okay, so here is the data center. There is direct location where you want to connect, and your branch of this and everything. So here is AWS account where you have the resources or services. So you can, using this AWS direct connect, you can connect your data center, any branch office, any home office, or anything using this one. Okay. And what is the VPC endpoint? Just remember this direct connect and all these things. Okay, NAT gateway, direct connect. They may ask you questions, right? The questions could be how we can connect the on-premises data center to our AWS data center. So you can say by using the direct connect, right? By using the direct connect service, we can connect to that. And they can say, they can twist the questions and ask, if you have your database in the private server and you want to patch some data, and how will you do that, right? Because private data centers, if it is in a private subnet, if your database is in a private subnet, normally we don't have internet access, right? As I told, we can use the network address translations of the NAT gateway in order to access the internet and update the operating system, update the database, update the any patches. To add any patches, we can do that, because without internet we cannot patch or we cannot upgrade our databases. So what is the VPC endpoint? The VPC endpoint enables us privately connect our VPC to the supported AWS services and VPC endpoint services powered by private link without requiring an internet gateway, NAT device, or VPN connection. Okay, so what it says, VPC endpoint enables us privately connect your VPC to the supported AWS services and VPC endpoint services powered by the private link, and this private link is normally used without requiring an internet gateway and all. So instances in the VPC do not require the public IP addresses to communicate with the resources in the services. Okay, so we don't need any separate IP addresses or public IP addresses or anything to communicate between the services. By using this VPC endpoint, we can directly connect to the services between them. Traffic between our VPC and other service does not leave the Amazon network. Endpoints are virtual devices. They are horizontally scaled, redundant, and highly available VPC components that allow communication between instances in our VPC and services without imposing availability risks and bandwidth constraints on our network traffic. So as we are seeing, like, just a guys, I'm getting a call. 1 second. So that is the VPC endpoint. Okay, and here are a few things, and let's see, transit gateway and all. So what is a transit gateway? AWS Transit Gateway connects VPCs and on-premises networks through a central hub. This simplifies your network and puts an end to complex peering relationship. So we don't need this transit gateway, just leave it for now. So that's all about this VPC and some concepts and some terms to understand. And this, there is also a private link, AWS private link. What it does, it provides privately connect between VPC's AWS service and your on-premises network, right? Ajay is talking about the direct connect, right? Whatever we are going to private link, the same things actually we can use the direct link, direct connect, right? So in AWS, right? Not only in AWS, all the cloud services, they're providing multiple services. And few services will be the similar concept and similar way, and you have to choose as a solution architect, you have to choose the right service for your requirement. Whatever you can do, achieve using the direct connect, the same way you can achieve using the AWS private link also. What it does, AWS private link makes it easy to connect services across different accounts and VPCs to significantly simplify your network architecture. So if I go to the direct connect, what it does, also solution that easy to establish dedicated network between your on-premises to the AWS. So the endpoint, what it does, it powered by the private link. So whatever the private link we are going to see now, that is being used by the endpoint to connect the VPCs within the AWS account or within the cross account or within the AWS. Now, AWS Private makes it easy to connect services across different accounts and VPCs to significantly simplify our network architecture. And what is the benefits? It secure your traffic, simplify network management, accelerate your cloud migrations. So all these things can be used by using the private link. Okay, now let's go ahead and create our own custom VPC. I'm not going to do the entire project today because it is not possible to do that, and it will take another 2 classes for the entire project to complete and to understand other concept peering and all these things. Okay, let's see what exactly this and how we can create our own custom VPC. Let's go ahead and let me cancel this. So whenever, and another concept, all these concepts, please remember, whenever you create an account with AWS, by default, the AWS will provide you one virtual private cloud or network. So your account will come with the default VPC. By default, it will come with the VPC, which will have some default network setup. Okay, so in this account, suppose in MBTech, if I go to my VPC sections, okay, just search for the VPC here, or you can go to the network section here, go down to the networking sections, networking and content delivery, and you can find the VPC here. Okay, isolated cloud resources VPC, or you can search VPC directly over here and come. As I said, whenever we create an account with AWS, by default, what it does, it creates, see, this is the VPC dashboard, and we'll have one VPC and 3 subnets. Can anybody tell why 3 subnets comes? Why 3 subnets?
There is 3 availability zone.
Exactly. As there is 3 availability zone, it comes default 3 subnets. Okay. And we'll have a default route table. Remember, we'll have a default route table, default internet gateway, okay, default NACL also, network access control list. And these security groups we have created. Few security groups. One, it comes with one default security. Also, we have created 3 more securities. Okay, and it comes with this DHCP options. We are not sure about. I'm not going to cover this one. Okay, and all these things. And you can let's see here. We don't have any NAT gateway, right? We don't have any NAT gateways automatically. Okay? We don't have any VPC peering comes. Okay, on this VPC peering and NAT gateway, we'll create and we'll have separate classes for this too. Okay, VPC peering and NAT gateway. Now, this is what by default gets created. Okay, if I go to the security groups, let's go to the security groups here. Security groups, and we'll have, as I said, we have 4 security groups. You can see here default comes, right? Default security group. By default, it will, whenever we create the VPC, by default, it will comes with a security group, right? So in your account, it will come with the security groups. Fine. Now let's go ahead and create a custom VPC. Okay, create a custom VPC, and don't keep that VPC gets created. It may cost you right more, right? So whenever you do practice, just delete the custom VPC. Don't delete the prior default VPC. Okay, you cannot delete anyway, but don't delete the default VPC. Try to delete only custom VPC. So how we can do it here? We can directly go ahead and create a VPC. And remember, guys, they always keep changing their UI, the interface. Okay, whenever few months back, whenever I was doing the classes, there is a different UI. Now they have changed with a different one. Okay, so it looks good actually with all these links and all. Wow, this looks actually beautiful. Fine, let's see how it works. What it says, resources to create, and create only the VPC resource or the VPC and other networking resources. And let's go and select with the VPC and other networking resources. what it says, auto generate the project name, the tag auto generate, enter a value for the name tag. This value will be used to auto generate name tags for the resource in the VPC. Okay, I'll select with VPC only. Good. I'll not go with the VPC and more. It is giving more details on the creating project and all. So I just go with only VPC only. So whenever you go with VPC, let's see with VPC only, and we'll see with VPC and more also. Two options are there, right? So what it says, if you give for VPC only, just provide a VPC name. Okay. So if you don't provide a VPC name, by default, it will create the custom name. So I don't want. So I'll just create like my custom VPC. I'll just give us my custom VPC and IPv4, and I can provide the IPv4 CID range, right? So I can put as the VPC as 10.0.0.0/16. Okay, so before going to create this CID range, okay, CID range, let's understand what exactly this CID. I have multiple things are bookmark actually. Whenever I feel something is very interesting, I keep, as I always tell, right? I just bookmark it. Okay. So what I was looking for the CID, right? I have something kept it for CID. It will be difficult to find it out. Say that multiple things are there. CID. Okay. No, it's not. Let's CID AWS CID. Okay. So if I go to this AWS IP ranges and all, okay, and CID things, not even good document here. I had a good document actually on CID. I had collected it. CID and peering for VPC, it's not good. Private virtual cloud. Okay. So in this private, I think in the VPC documentations, we can find it out. Okay. Okay. So here is the VPC diagram. Configure your own VPC. Let me just ping you this one to you. Let me also bookmark this one. Let me ping you. Okay. So what I can do here, we already have discussed about this, what is virtual private cloud and all, and what is the benefits here. And so here, each region will have default VPC. It comes with default VPC, and you can create as many as VPC if you want, your custom VPC, and create for a separate account, separate projects, you can create the VPC. And this is the CIDR block. What is the CIDR block? This is actually, VPC supports both IPv4 Internet Protocol version 4 and Internet Protocol version 6 addressing. A VPC must have the CIDR block associated with it, and you can optionally associate the CIDR block of multiple IPv6 and CIDR blocks to your VPC. So what exactly this CIDR block or the IP ranges and how we can set it up? Okay, if I go down a little below here, okay, and okay, so if you see this IP address ranges, right? So guys, our IPv4, right? IPv4, actually, what is that? It's a 32-bit, right? IPv4 is a 32-bit addresses, right? And we already have discussed, I think, IPv4 is 32-bit and IPv6 is 128-bit, right? We are discussing, right? We mean 128-bit. So if we go about this 32-bit ranges, right? We have one called CIDR.xyz. CIDR.xyz. Keep this also bookmark. This is a CIDR calculator. Okay, this is a CIDR block calculator. What it does, it is an interactive IP address and CIDR range visualizer. Okay, as I told, it is a 32-bit IP addresses. Okay, suppose I want to create an IP address. So whenever you give 32-bit, what will happen? You can see here with 32-bit, we have only one IP addresses. And you need to understand what is the network mask. So each network mask will have this 255, 255, 255. So 32-bit means each block of our CIDR range, right? This will be our 8-bit, 8-bit, and 8-bit and 8-bit here. Okay, all are different bits are there. So if we talk about this 32-bit range, we'll have this one account. Okay, guys, I'm not going to, and yeah, I think if I go more on this, you will not understand. Let me, in our tomorrow classes, we'll have a completely network discussions, okay, on subnets, on CIDR blocks, on IP addresses, and how we can set up all these details, and we'll see how we can do the calculations of this 32-bit and all. Maybe tomorrow classes will have dedicatedly do for our networking. Okay, leave it this one and keep this CIDR.xyz handy to calculate. If I want 16-bit of IP addresses, see how many we can do with this CIDR range. Will have 65,536 IP addresses. We can create 65,536 IP addresses with 8-bit. We'll have how many? 16 crore, right? 1,67 lakhs. Okay, 1,67 lakhs IP addresses with 8-bit. So whenever I give 8 bits, the network mask you see here changes only to 255, and the rest of the things are 000. Okay. So if you see here, the CIDR is a notation for the describing blocks of IP address. If you see the meanings of CIDR is here. CIDR is a notation for describing blocks. Okay, we'll discuss further and with all these meanings and definitions and see how it works. This octets and 8 bits, if you put everything in your mind and make it confused and may not grasp it easily. So better let's discuss these things tomorrow classes. But let me just go ahead and create a simple first VPC, and we'll see what are the default things are getting created. Okay. Now, if I go here, not this one. So I gave my custom VPC, and as per the diagram, let's go ahead and create. As per this diagram, we'll create our subnet and all. Okay. Suppose here the VPC, I gave the CIDR block of 10.0.0.0 16-bit I provided. So if I give 16-bit of this, how many things it will get create? Let's go give 0, 0, 0, and I'll give 16 here. So we'll have 65,536 accounts, and 5 accounts, 5 IP addresses will be blocked. And that will be a questions, guys. Definitely will be networking questions in the interview. We'll discuss these things tomorrow classes. Okay, what are the things that are going to be reserved by AWS? There will be 5 IP addresses. 4 or 5 IP addresses will be reserved by AWS. So what are the things and why it is being reserved, we'll discuss in tomorrow classes. Okay. Now, if I go here, go here. So I choose 16 here, and IPv6, no IPv6. I don't need any IPv6 here. Tenancy. So the tenancy is something. The tenancy, like the rent. How much? What are the going to do? Whether you are going to use a dedicated space or private cloud or public, right? Tenancy default. So I'll go with public one. Okay, rented one. So just give a name tag, name my custom VPC, that is okay. Create VPC. So when I create only VPC, let's see what are the things gets created. So what happens here? You successfully created the custom VPC. So if I go to the dashboard, see what happens here. By default, what happened? What the things it created? Whenever I created the custom VPC, it created the route table, default route, subnet. It did not create any subnet because these three subnets are created by the default VPC. Whenever I created one custom VPC, you can see here, if I go to the VPC, we'll have two VPCs, and this is the default one. This is the default one, and I created one is the my custom VPC, my custom VPC. Okay, and whenever I created this my custom VPC, it created one route table, a default route table of the custom VPC. Also, it created a default NACL, default network access control list of the custom VPC. Also, it created one security group, but it did not create any internet gateway. It did not create any subnet. It did not create any DSCP, or it did not create any NAT gateway. By default, what it created, it comes with, whenever you create a custom VPC, remember by default, it will come with route table, network access control list, and a security group. Three things. Remember, whenever you create a custom VPC, by default, it will come with a route table, network access list, and security group. As we discussed about the network access control list, by default, it will allow the both in all inbounds and outbounds. Okay, so if this is our custom default NACL for our custom VPC. So see, this is the VPC ID. You can see this is the default VPC which is attached. This is a default network access control list, and this is the custom VPC which is attached to the default network access of the custom VPC, and it does not have any subnets associated with. We'll see in our tomorrow lab classes how we can create the subnets. And before creating the subnet, we need to understand what CIDR, what is IP address, what is the range, how to create the range, what is the subnet, how to add it all. So before creating the subnet and doing that, we should have some understanding on the networking side. Okay, so tomorrow we'll discuss networking first, and then we'll move into and create the subnets and all. So you can see here one NACL is created. If I go to the dashboard again, and we can see it here, we have this route table. Okay, we have these route tables, and this has also one custom route table. Okay, this is also have a custom route table. Now let me go to this NACL and show you one more thing. If I go to this NACL thing here, and we'll have, if I click this, you see, as we said, right, 100 rules, rule number 100, all traffics, it is allowing all traffic, both inbound as well as the outbound allow. Okay, and if I want to create our custom NACL, right, custom network access control list, as we have seen, it will create the rules with everything denied. Okay, we'll see in our tomorrow lab classes. Now let's go ahead, and we'll see also, we'll have security group created. So default one, let me refresh this. Okay, we have two defaults, right? One is for the default VPC, the account created, and other one will be our created for our home VPC. Okay, these are the VPC ID. This is the VPC ID which we created now, the custom VPC, and these are the default VPCs. Okay, fine. Now you understood what are the default things will get created when we create a custom VPC: one route table, one NACL, one security group. Okay, these three things will get created. That's all, guys, for today's class, and tomorrow we'll see the lab classes and just go through the videos, try to keep it and write down and make a document of the bullet points, whatever we discuss, and keep it handy, because with this VPC and your own infrastructure, you can correlate and respond the questions, whatever you get from your interviewer. Okay, and don't forget to delete this VPC because this custom VPC may charge you, right? Because we are going to create the network itself, right? So definitely it will charge you. So let's go ahead and delete the VPC, and we have to type delete here, delete, and tomorrow classes we'll create it again, and we'll create with all subnet and networks and everything, and internet gateway will see all public subnet, private subnet, everything will create, and we'll see how it connects. Okay, that's all, guys. So if you have any things to discuss, we can discuss, or we can wind up this class and we'll connect tomorrow.